For most people, the age of the battleship is over. A forgotten era of steel monsters, towering guns, and thunder that could shake the ocean itself. For decades, military experts insisted these giants had no place in modern war. They were too heavy, too slow, too expensive, and too vulnerable to missiles. But then something unexpected happened. Donald Trump said the US Navy needed firepower again. Not drones, not futuristic laser ships, not delicate vessels that rely on computers more than armor. He was talking about battleships. Real battleships. The kind that once made entire nations rethink their strategies. And suddenly, the question began echoing across newsrooms, YouTube channels, and military circles. Why does Trump want to bring back battleships? And even more curious, why are some military strategists quietly agreeing with him? To understand this, we need to go back in time. Not to politics, not to modern debates, but to the raw, unfiltered history of what battleships once meant. Because Trump's idea isn't random. It's rooted in a part of American military power that people have forgotten. For nearly a century, battleships were symbols of national pride. They were floating fortresses, massive slabs of steel with walls thick enough to shrug off torpedoes, guns capable of firing shells the size of a small car over the horizon. When a battleship appeared offshore during a conflict, everyone knew what came next. Cities shook, beaches vanished, and armies crumbled. The United States built some of the greatest battleships the world has ever seen. The Iowa class, USS Iowa, USS New Jersey, USS Missouri, and USS Wisconsin. Long, sleek, deadly, they were the fastest and most technologically advanced battleships ever built. And they weren't just powerful, they were iconic. They were the ships that defeated Nazis, crushed the Japanese Empire, supported Marines in Korea, and fired the opening shots of Desert Storm. Then they were retired, locked away, preserved as museums, quiet, silent, frozen in time. But Donald Trump has always had an odd fascination with bringing back old power. Old factories, old industries, old strategies that he believed were abandoned too quickly. So when he looked at America's coastline, he didn't just see water. He saw a battlefield, a place where raw strength still matters. Because the world is changing, and not in America's favor. China is building warships faster than any nation in modern history. Russia is reviving Cold War naval doctrines. Iran is focusing on swarms of small attack boats designed to overwhelm US ships. And hypersonic missiles, which travel at 5 times the speed of sound, are making aircraft carriers more vulnerable than ever before. In Trump's mind, America needed something new, or perhaps something old. Battleships had one major advantage: armor. Not metaphorical armor, real, physical armor, feet of reinforced steel plate. Unlike modern warships made with lightweight alloys and minimal protection, battleships were built to take hits and keep moving. They were designed to survive. And in an era where a single missile can devastate a billion-dollar destroyer, Trump's thinking was simple. If the enemy shoots, make sure the ship can survive the shot. Military experts laughed at first. They said battleships were relics. They said they'd be easy targets. But then someone asked a dangerous question. What if the future of naval warfare isn't about evading hits, but absorbing them? That idea changed everything. Because battleships could do something no modern ship can: bring overwhelming firepower right up to the enemy's coastline and survive the return fire. Trump's argument wasn't just about nostalgia, it was about capability. A battleship can fire a 2,700-pound shell over 23 miles, hitting a target with earth-shattering force. No missile defenses, no radar lock-on issues, just pure ballistic destruction. And that kind of force still matters. Ask any Marine who fought in the Pacific. Ask soldiers in Korea who relied on battleships to save entire divisions. Ask the troops in Vietnam who heard the Missouri's guns thunder through the jungle. But there's another reason Trump's idea gained traction, one that goes beyond firepower or armor. The US Navy is stretched thin, very thin. Carriers take decades to build, destroyers cost billions, and modern war requires presence, not just technology. China, meanwhile, is rapidly expanding into the South China Sea, building military bases on artificial islands and threatening shipping lanes used by half the world's trade. A battleship, outfitted with modern systems, could act as both a deterrent and a symbol of dominance, a floating statement that America still controls the oceans. Imagine an Iowa-class battleship upgraded with new engines, vertical launch missile systems, drone swarms, railgun technology, and modern radar. A ship that combines old-world armor with new-world weapons. A ship that could survive hypersonic threats better than any cruiser or destroyer afloat. And a ship that would terrify adversaries just by existing. Some Pentagon insiders quietly admitted the idea wasn't as crazy as it sounded. Not because battleships are perfect, but because modern naval warfare is entering an unpredictable era. An era where carriers might become too vulnerable. An era where missile saturation could overwhelm defenses. And an era where America might once again need something heavy. Meanwhile, Trump's supporters argue that America always wins when it leads with overwhelming force. Not with careful diplomacy, not with half measures, but with undeniable, unstoppable power. Battleships, to them, are the embodiment of that power. But critics say the idea is impractical. Battleships require huge crews. They burn enormous fuel. They can't hide from satellites. They cost billions to modernize. The debate kept growing. Military analysts debated on television. Navy veterans wrote letters. History channels made videos. The internet exploded with arguments. But behind all the noise lay a deeper truth. A truth tied to the psychology of war. Battleships project fear. Not abstract fear. Not theoretical fear. Real, physical intimidation. The kind of fear that makes an enemy think twice before advancing. Because when a battleship appears off your coast, you know you can't ignore it. You can't intercept it. You can't stop it. It is a message written in steel. And Trump has always understood the power of symbols. He knows that strength is not just about weapons. It's about perception, about presence, about having something so overwhelmingly powerful that your enemies rethink their choices. For Trump, bringing back battleships isn't about going backwards. It's about reminding the world what America used to be, and what he believes it should be again. A nation that builds big. A nation that projects power. A nation that doesn't apologize for its strength. Will battleships actually return? Nobody knows. It would take years, billions of dollars, a political storm, and an entirely new naval doctrine. But the idea is no longer a joke. It's a real military discussion, a possibility hiding in the shadows of the Pentagon. Because the world is changing faster than the Navy can adapt. Missiles are faster, drones are smarter, threats are unpredictable, and sometimes the answer to a chaotic future is a weapon from the past. Maybe Trump is wrong. Maybe battleships truly belong in history books. Maybe the modern battlefield has no place for armor and steel giants. But maybe, just maybe, the world will once again feel the thunder of 16-inch guns across the ocean. Maybe America will once again unleash a ship that can shake the earth. And if that day comes, it won't be because battleships are old. It'll be because they are timeless. Because in war, one truth never changes. Power still matters. And nothing, absolutely nothing, projects power like a battleship.